What's up guys, the Battlefield 6 beta just ended, and I kinda just wanted to give my general thoughts on how I felt about it during these past 2 weekends, and whether or not I think the game is any good. And I'd like to start off with a quick disclaimer that yes, I am a COD player first. It's what I had the most hours in. I also have played other Battlefield games, it's pretty much all of them since Battlefield 4, so it's definitely not my first rodeo when it comes to these types of games. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about what I believe is the most important part of any first-person shooter, and that is the gunplay. I think for the most part, gunplay is in a pretty good spot. I would like to see some changes to the bloom, but they need to keep bloom in the game to prevent people from just moving like around crazy and already making a game that does kind of play like more of a Call of Duty like than it does Battlefield. So they need to have that in effect in order to stop people from truly just running around. And for some weapons, I'd like to see an increase in recoil, and then of course a decrease in bloom. If you increase the recoil, you gotta decrease bloom, or the gun experience will just feel pretty bad. Because I feel like Battlefield, most guns aren't as accurate as they are in this game. Maybe I'm just misremembering. It has been a while since I've played like Battlefield 5, the last true Battlefield game. 2042 was awful. So maybe I'm just remembering, but yeah, for the most part I feel like the guns definitely need a little bit more recoil to give them that true kind of feel to them. So now let's talk about the movement. For the most part I think it's pretty good. There's no tack sprinting that just adds more of a nuisance and just bricks controllers. There's no omni movement that makes the game feel awkward and faster than what it really is. And for the most part, you don't move too slow. So I think right now they got in a pretty good spot. I don't really hope to see any changes in movement. Maybe, if anything, some changes to the sliding, but honestly, I didn't really even see that many people using it in my experience. But there are times where it did feel a little bit too fast to what I'd imagine that the devs would be trying to aim for their gameplay experience. So I wouldn't really care much if they didn't change it. I'm pretty impartial. If they do change it, I'm fine. If they do, if they don't, it's whatever. So now let's talk about what makes Battlefield Battlefield, the vehicles. So I don't usually use jets and helicopters in these games, so I'm not gonna be giving my experience with them. But I do tend to play in the tanks as a gunner, and the tanks feel like they kind of die really quick. And then the jeeps, they feel floaty when you're driving them. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't feel like I'm driving a car. It just feels kind of strange, and I think they need to do a little reworking in the general feel of like the jeeps. But other than that, the only other thing I can really complain about is their availability. Like, I don't like, there's even full conquest maps, the Brooklyn map, where it's just there's no vehicles. So it's like, what the heck? Or even on Rush, there's not a jeep or anything. It feels kind of off-putting when you're playing Battlefield and there's nothing to really, like, the engineer class feels really bad in certain modes and certain maps because there's just nothing to really blow up as an engineer. I mean, sure, you can do map destruction, but other than that, like, your value goes down like a lot, I think. So now let's talk about the modes. I think small map modes like Dom, King of the Hill, and the Squad Deathmatch, I think all three of those are in a pretty good spot. And I don't think many of the maps need adjusting in those areas. Now the next mode, Rush, in this game feels really bad. It was one of my favorite modes in Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. But it just feels like right now you're just constantly dying, and there just doesn't really seem to have any flow to the actual game. Now, while most will say, well, it's just the maps are bad, so the mode's gonna not be as great because the maps aren't designed for it, which is, yes, definitely true. But another part that they should look at is the actual objective locations. Some of them just feel so open, and they're just in really bad spots, I think, that kind of affects the flow and makes it hard to defend and attack. Hopefully they do adjust the maps and probably add a little bit of expansions to them to make them feel a little better. Maybe make it so you can actually go on some of the roofs of the buildings to just help with the flow, because right now it just doesn't it doesn't flow well at all, and it's a bummer because it is one of my more preferred modes to play. Like, that's like a traditional Battlefield mode that I'd play, but right now it's just not in a good spot at all. Now, of the traditional Battlefield modes, I think Conquest is definitely in the best spot, and even then, it still feels like it's kind of missing elements. So the maps need to be bigger so then they could allow more vehicles to be added into the gameplay, so then it can like live up to the same scaling that some of the other Battlefields had before, in my opinion. Next is Rush, and this mode is the mode I have the least amount of experience in. I never really played Rush until this beta, and while I enjoyed it, reading other people's impressions on it, it definitely does seem like the scale of the battle kind of went down a lot. And I do know that it used to be 16v16, and now it's 12v12, so I definitely could see, and I think it would actually improve the gameplay if they did make it 16v16, made them use a little bit more of the map, spread the objectives out a little bit, added some vehicles. I think that would all help make Rush actually feel like a pretty good mode. But as it stands right now, I don't hate the mode, and actually a lot of my good gameplay comes from Rush. But I don't think you should alienate original Battlefield fans for players like me. I know that sounds bad, but yeah, Rush, you should be able to play no vehicle Rush if that's what you want. Like, that should just be an option to play. It shouldn't be forced on all players. Destruction in this game feels alright. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I don't really have much to say about the destruction aspects. I mean, it just is what it is. I could see them adding more, because there does seem to be some buildings that kind of are useless. They don't need to be standing, so I'd love to see them some more destruction, but it's not really that important to me. Now, one thing that I do have to complain about is the player visibility. It does at times seem pretty hard to just see players or enemies, even during certain situations where you're just looking inside of a building or looking outside of a building. It just seems needlessly hard, and I think the devs knew that that was an issue, which is why they put these orange squares on top of everybody. But I don't think that's the best solution. I'd rather them try to figure out another creative way to fix it. And like for the last major thing to talk about, the netcode does feel pretty awful right now. There's a lot of times where you just instantly get deleted, a lot of times where it seems like it takes forever to kill people, and then there's times where, you know, enemies are getting killed around corners. So netcode definitely needs some work if they can. I know a lot of times that they're not able to actually fix the netcode from beta to live, but I'd love to see them try and to see some improvements in the game's netcode. And then finally, you've probably heard this 100,000 times, but the UI just needs to be completely changed. It's way too complicated in its current state. And I actually booted up Delta Force a little bit before making this video, and they do it 10 times better, and it's like their first game on console. So they definitely need to go back to the workshop with that. So anyways, if I had to give this beta some arbitrary number on the scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it depends mostly on if you're a true like Battlefield player, you enjoy the more tactical side of Battlefield. I'd say it's probably more of a 6 or 5 out of 10. And then if you're more of a fast pace, you just want to get in there, kill things, you just want to play the game, maybe you play a lot of COD too and Battlefield, I'd say it's like an 8 or 7 out of 10. But I think with some good changes, especially updates to the vehicles and maybe some increases in the map sizes, I think they can make everybody happy with this game. Anyways, that's about it for me this video. If you made it this far, a like would be appreciated. If you didn't like the video, then you can dislike. It's whatever, you do you. And if you like seeing Battlefield 6 content, I do enjoy this game. Definitely subscribe to the channel, and I'll definitely be uploading more on this in the future. But that's about it, and I'll see you guys next time.